Hello to you, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jenny Day in for Netta. Here at News 8, we of course are working for you, listening to your concerns, investigating your questions, and finding solutions that matter in our community. So today we do begin across the border as Mexico remains on edge over violence that ensued after a Mexican government operation killed a cartel kingpin known as El Mencho. All of that left many visitors, including Americans, stranded in Mexico amid the violence. The unrest in Mexico is not only leaving some tourists stranded, it has also led to cruise ships having to make detours. News 8's Shannon Handy is working for you. She spoke with an expert and has more on what you need to know if you are heading on a Mexican cruise anytime soon.
The Port of San Diego is a major hub for cruise ships traveling to and from Mexico. Those cruises are still going, but some have had to make last-minute changes. This was the scene in Puerto Vallarta Sunday, sparked by retaliatory violence over the killing of Mexico's most powerful drug lord.
Scattered with fires.
The unrest left tourists on the ground stranded as flights got canceled and roadways were blocked. Puerto Vallarta is also a popular stop for cruises. For those out at sea, the violence has forced ships to turn around or stay far offshore and cancel excursions.
Norwegian Cruise Line, Princess Cruises, Holland America Line, right now they're avoiding Puerto Vallarta. They're not going to jeopardize passenger and ship safety.
Stuart Caron is known as the cruise guy. He's been in the business for 36 years and has been on nearly 350 cruises. He told me having to make those last-minute changes is something cruise lines are used to.
They're not canceling the cruise, but what they're doing is they're canceling the ports. Changing port itineraries to adjust with weather or geopolitical issues is normal. In this case, what they're going to do is they're going to spend more time in, let's say, Cabo San Lucas, or they may spend a day at sea.
On Monday, the Cabo Instagram page posted a video showing what the area looked like. The caption addressed people's concerns, writing, "Everything is operating normally." While there is uncertainty over how the violence in Mexico will impact the country's hospitality industry, Kieran believes cruises won't be affected.
The cruise lines are not going to see any cancellations because they're not going to these destinations that are having these issues.
I asked Kieran if it's still safe to go on a Mexican cruise. He advises it is, adding passengers likely won't notice anything different, especially on board.
Nothing is going to change. Your entertainment, your activities, the restaurants, the spas.
Still, there are travelers who may choose to cancel their upcoming Mexican cruises. What's the process for that? Kieran warns, check the cruise line's cancellation policy first. Most cancellations can only be done using travel insurance, citing a medical issue as a reason to not go.
They're going to perform the cruise, and I can only tell you, just like with hurricanes, you can't cancel because of a hurricane because the ships will do everything they can to avoid the hurricane. So it's not going to be a coverable issue unless you have travel insurance that covers cancel for any reason.
Working for you, Shannon Handy, CBS 8.
Some good news there, Shannon. Thanks. Well, plans for a new county-level consumer protection unit are raising concerns by San Diego's top prosecutor. District Attorney Summer Steffens says while she welcomes the added resources, she has questions about whether this new venture will simply duplicate the work her office is already doing. News 8's Richard Allen has more.
Our office has the premier consumer protection unit in the entire state.
Over the years, the San Diego County District Attorney's Consumer Protection Unit has taken on and won major cases against corporations like Tesla, Target, and Apple.
We have so many tools and power within our office.
Power to prosecute on both the criminal and civil levels, which no other county agency can do. So a new proposal by County Board Chair Tara Lawson-Remer to create a county-run consumer protection unit has raised questions.
This is what we're concerned about. It's not about not wanting more work to be done. We welcome it. We just want it to be an added value for people who need it out there and not a duplication of efforts.
Speaking at a town hall Wednesday, Lawson-Remer said that this county-level consumer protection unit would fill gaps in consumer protection, a gap that's widening with the dismantling of consumer protections at the federal level.
Some of the cases are cases that maybe wouldn't be prioritized by other agencies or other entities, and that would allow us to be more responsive to some of the core concerns of district residents.
Funding for the initial launch of this proposed county unit would come from hundreds of millions of dollars in funds that the DA's office has amassed over the years from other consumer protection settlements.
so long as the money is used to fill a gap as opposed to duplicate.
Money that can only be used for consumer protection purposes.
It has to be very strictly used. Any misappropriation or misuse of that money will jeopardize the whole pot of money.
In a statement, Lawson-Remer said, quote, "I greatly value and appreciate the work of the district attorney and look forward to all of us chipping in to do the work needed to protect the residents of San Diego County."
I am disappointed that the county is kind of trying to do its own thing, which is not customary. I'm used to working with people and finding a win-win solution, and the win is really for our consumers. And I'm still hoping for that, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
Yeah, and Supervisor Lawson-Remer says she is hopeful the board will vote to approve her proposal sometime this spring. If it gets approved, the next steps would be to hire a director and staff for this county-run consumer protection unit. We'll keep you posted. Well, the San Diego City Council is set to vote on a sweeping plan to slow traffic on some of the city's most dangerous streets. A council committee signed off on the proposal last week and sent it now to the full city council. The proposal would lower speed limits on about 20% of city streets. News 8's Abby Black shows us why supporters say it is needed now.
I'm standing on Camino del Rio South in Mission Valley, where a father was hit and killed while he was riding his bicycle. The posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour, but now it's one of several thousand locations that we could see a reduced speed limit.
I'm here today because my husband was killed in a preventable traffic crash.
In 2021, Laura Keenan's husband, Matt, was riding his bike on Camino del Rio South to a nearby movie theater when a driver struck and killed him. Since his death, Laura co-founded Families for Safe Streets San Diego and has been pushing the city to act.
People don't think, oh, I'm just going over a couple miles over the speed limit, it's not a big deal, but it's a compounding effect.
Today, the city answered. Councilmember Stephen Whitburn chaired the city's Active Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, introduced a comprehensive speed management plan targeting roughly 20% of San Diego's entire road network.
Most of the time I see like 45, 50, it's kind of dangerous.
Under the plan, safety corridors, streets with higher concentrations of fatal and serious injury crashes, and high pedestrian areas could see a 5-mile-per-hour reduction. Business districts could drop to 25 and school zones to as low as 15 miles per hour for the first time.
A few miles per hour isn't a small change when you're the one walking or biking across the intersection. It's the difference between a close call and a tragedy. Too many children are dying on our streets.
That hit close to home on Jackson Drive, where an 11-year-old boy was killed walking to school with his siblings in October. That stretch is now among the locations included in the plan, with the speed limit dropping from 40 to 35 miles per hour, among other safety improvements.
Reduce speeds, reduce deaths, and serious injuries on our streets.
Whitburn says that this is now possible because of a new state law giving cities more flexibility to set speed limits based on safety, not just how fast drivers are already going.
It is my hope that by reducing speed limits, we will save lives and make our city safer.
The committee voted to approve the plan today and now goes to the full council for a vote. If approved, implementation is set for 2027, but it comes at a cost of $2.4 million. For a full list of the proposed locations, go to CBS8.com.
I want people to remember that every mile per hour makes a difference.
Abby Black, News 8.
Abs, thank you. And for years, we have been told to conserve water. You know it. So why did the city release water from Lake Hodges? Coming up, we'll take you to the dam and show you why this won't be the last time you see it. Plus, new rules for some local beaches, why some popular activities will soon be banned. Thanks for staying with us. Well, San Diego got hit with several inches of rain last week. Then it got really hot. But viewers noticed something in the days after the storms. The city started releasing water from Lake Hodges Reservoir after levels rose above safety limits. So News 8's Brian White is working for you and explains what is going on.
Yeah, crews are actively managing water levels here at Lake Hodges Dam. This controlled release is critical to protecting the integrity of the dam and people living downstream.
Water is slowly being released from this 108-year-old dam into the San Diego River. Recent storms and rainfall this week pushed the reservoir above the state's 280-foot safety threshold. The Hodges Dam was built in 1918 and purchased by the city of San Diego 7 years later. It's been rated unsatisfactory by the state with an extremely high downstream hazard potential if the dam should ever fail. Engineers say controlled releases like this help reduce pressure on the aging structure and protect communities downstream. City officials in the San Diego Water District and Santa Fe Irrigation District are coordinating to make the most of this water, drawing from the reservoir when possible for use by local customers. But most of the excess water will flow all the way down the river to the ocean near Del Mar, a point that has sparked debate, with some saying more could be done to capture and store it locally. The release began Wednesday and will continue until the reservoir drops below that 280-foot threshold. The exact timeline depends on rainfall and runoff, but officials say it could take several days to reach that level. For now, crews continue to monitor water levels closely to ensure the dam remains safe throughout the rainy season, while people downstream are asked to stay alert around the river as levels may rise. At Lake Hodges Reservoir, I'm Brian White, News 8.
Yes, such a precious resource, Brian. Thank you. Well, San Diego city leaders want to establish new rules around e-bikes, specifically to help protect children. Councilman Raul Campillo is proposing a minimum age of 12 to ride. It would also ban passengers unless the bike is equipped with a permanent second seat. The San Diego police chief backs the plan, calling it clear and reasonable. The proposal still needs to be approved by the council's Public Safety Commission before it then heads to the full city council. And the San Diego City Council did approve a $6.3 million settlement with several insurance companies tied to claims from the January 2024 floods there in Southeast San Diego. The deal reimburses 17 insurers, including Allstate, Mercury, and Palomar Specialty, for payouts made after those historic storms. But many flood survivors say they are still waiting for their compensation, and seeing insurance companies get paid first is hard.
Insurance companies don't need extra money, like they're doing fine. I think we can all agree that insurance companies have enough money, but as survivors, we're all struggling.
Yeah, that was Jessica, one of the roughly 1,500 flood victims suing the city. Her case is still pending. Her attorney calls this settlement a good first step in acknowledging responsibility and says talks with the city are ongoing, but there is no agreement yet for those victims, and the case is set to go to trial in October. Still ahead, new rules on the way for some North County beaches, what soon will be off limits. Well, it is a beach tradition for a lot of families, digging big holes, building tunnels, even burying someone in the sand. But in Del Mar, that will soon be against the law. News 8's Brian White has more on the change and the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, digging in the sand is a beach day staple, but even something as small as this could pose a problem here in Del Mar, where city leaders say some holes are going too deep and becoming too dangerous.
You're going to take all the joy away from the children. They just love to dig in the sand here, and it's a pleasure to watch them because they're joyous.
Not everyone is sold on the new rules, but city leaders say the issue isn't fun, it's safety. Recently, the Del Mar City Council unanimously approved a new law banning holes deeper than 2 feet and the burying of people in the sand altogether.
Hole digging holes, it's a rite of passage for a lot of people, but it is a safety hazard. You get out here, the tide's up, all of a sudden it dips down. Not just, people walking out there with boards, man, but even the little kids get out there. Next thing you know, they're neck deep in water, so we got to look at the kids, dude.
City officials say they've seen an uptick in what they call hazardous holes, creating trip and fall risks, collapses, and even obstacles for lifeguards and emergency vehicles trying to navigate the beach.
I'm always cautious when I pass these holes. I understand it's fun to dig a hole, but at the same time, it might be dangerous, especially for those who's having a walking problem.
The new rules also say all holes, no matter the size, must be filled in before leaving. Parents can be held responsible if a minor digs deeper than 2 feet. Still, some beachgoers say common courtesy could solve the problem.
When I was growing up, I was building sandcastles all the time, but I always made sure fill those holes in when I'm done.
I don't like rules, and it would be nice if people just filled in the hole when they're done playing. But we have to look out for everybody.
City leaders say enforcement will focus first on education with signage, warnings, and outreach from staff and lifeguards. But if someone refuses to comply, the fine for a citation like this is $100. They say this is about keeping the beach safe and accessible for everyone. The ban takes effect March 17th. In Del Mar, Brian White, News 8.
Yeah, interesting, Brian. Thanks, as always. Coming up, relief at the pump. California lawmakers are considering pausing the nation's highest gas tax. The price tag that comes with it. Applications are now open for California's Dream for All home loan program. The program is open to first-time, first-generation homebuyers who meet certain income requirements, but the state then could potentially provide you up to 20% for a down payment or as much as $150,000 for closing costs. In San Diego, the city is adding up to $40,000 for down payment help and $10,000 more for those closing costs. About $300 million is available, potentially helping up to 2,000 families. Applications close March 16th, followed by a randomized drawing. Good luck to you. And the city of San Diego is facing a projected $120 million budget deficit, and leaders are now making some tough decisions on where to make cuts. At a public meeting just recently, residents sounded off on possible cuts, including public health funding, low-income housing, and intersection safety. Others called for reducing police funding and ending the city's contract with Flock, the company that provides license plate reader cameras. The president of the Friends of the San Diego Public Library says libraries should be funded at least at last year's levels to keep them open 7 days a week.
The city fully funds all of our libraries so they can be open every day of the week. That's what I hope. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, but at least at the bare minimum, we need to go back to what the funding that we had in 2025.
So April 15th is when Mayor Todd Gloria will publish his proposed budget for the next fiscal year. Another public budget meeting is scheduled before that, though, March 10th at 6 p.m. Well, Republicans at the state capitol are calling for an immediate one-year suspension of California's gas tax. Democrats are pushing back as new pieces of legislation await their future. News 8 State Matters political reporter Jenny Huh shares what both sides of the aisle are saying.
California Republicans say the gas tax is especially unaffordable for rural communities as it's a regressive tax, meaning everyone, regardless of income, pays the same amount.
Pause the state gas tax immediately.
Both Assembly and Senate Republicans say that's their latest effort to tackle California's affordability crisis. AB 1745 would pause California's 61 cents per gallon gas tax for 1 year. Republican State Senator Tony Strickland's bill would do the same, but adds up to $1.08 in savings, suspending the gas tax, state taxes, the low carbon fuel standards tax, and cap and trade tax, the various costs that make up the total cost of gasoline per gallon, according to the California Energy Commission.
We need to get ahead of this crisis before it really hits.
The loss in gas tax revenue for the state, which would be about $8 billion a year, according to the California Department of Finance, could be made up with the general fund, Republicans say.
Well, the headline that we see slip off the lips of Governor Newsom is we are the fourth largest economy in the world, right? So we know we have money. We have a spending problem in California.
California doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a wasteful spending problem.
Legislators argue California has had an unexpected revenue surplus, as often noted by the governor. But what about the budget deficit?
Although we're asking for a revenue decrease, we're asking even more for expenditure decreases. We are in a deficit, but my colleagues in the supermajority can find money for their pet projects.
State Senator Maria Alvarado Gil says this is a good opportunity for California to tighten its belt and instead spend money on voter-approved projects such as the Tougher on Crime Proposition 36.
Driving isn't optional. It's essential. So, Governor, if you're listening, and I hope you are, you can lead us in the right direction.
A spokesperson for Governor Newsom pointed us to a 2024 press conference.
There's nothing about repealing the gas tax that guarantees lower gas prices. Investments that are going to roads and bridges culverts, investments in infrastructure that would be lost.
Good news is that it would give some short-term relief.
But the Assembly member says he's concerned about the long term, with studies showing gas prices may reach $8 a gallon by the end of the year with recent refinery closures.
If you cut cap and trade and you incentivize your refineries to stay here and incentivize drilling and oil, gas drilling, we wouldn't have a problem.
And both bills will be heard in their first committee hearings in the coming weeks. All eyes are on how likely they are to advance, given the quick pushback by Democrats already. Meantime, Republicans continue to call for an emergency session in light of recent refinery closures. Jenny He, News 8.
And remember, if there is something you'd like us to look into, email us at workingforyou@cbs8.com. Take such good care. I'm Jenny Day.